for letting me know. All right. Well, some of you I already know from the chat, so we have spoken before. If you don't know me yet, my name is Gustavo. I'm from Placker Customer Success Team, and I'm thrilled to explain and to demonstrate to you today the card mirroring feature, which has helped a lot of teams to improve their workflow, become more productive. And we'll also have plenty of time today to answer any questions that you might have and show you some additional features. Some of you already know the basics of card mirroring. Some of you have just started, but I'm sure that it will be useful to everybody. So feel free to send your questions at any time. There is a button at the right, that's the Q&A button. You can use this to send your questions. And yeah, let's make this very interactive, and feel free to reach out anytime. The topic today is mainly about synchronizing cards for two different boards. So the concept of card mirroring is exactly to have a card that is updated in both boards at the same time. So this can be used for many different purposes. So it can be individual boards. So if you have your three little personal boards here where you plan all your tasks and then you mirror them to the team board where everybody is collaborating, this is one of the applications that you can use. You can also synchronize provider boards to a client board so you can share information with your client without having to exchange emails. You can also use to have many projects, individual projects linked to a portfolio board. That's also used if you are working in a more project focused organization. So regardless of the type, card mirroring can be very helpful. And this is more than a technical tool. This is a tool for collaboration, so it makes it more smooth, the workflow with your team. So I'd like to start with a quote from Michael Jordan: "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships." Um, there is an article from 2018. The two teams that won their conferences that year were the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. At the time, they were not the teams who had the highest scoring players, but they were the teams who had the most assistances, the most players that were doing passes to their teammates to do the scores. So that teamwork and working well with their colleagues led them to get to the finals. And this is helpful not only in basketball but also in the business environment. So a good way to use card mirroring is to save time, so that when you are collaborating with your team, you don't need to update information in two places. We've had some cases of people saying that before they had Placker, they were updating cards in two different boards, and sometimes they would even forget to update in one board, and this would lead to mistakes, to failures in the communication. But if you have Placker, everything should be in sync and you won't have to worry about this anymore. And it helps you get work done, because the more efficient you are, the more you are focused on the work that you need to do, the more time you will have to focus on what really matters. Okay. Um, there's a comment saying that you're not seeing anything. Um, Is it working for everybody to see my screen and to see my slides? Okay. All right. Great. So let's start with the demonstration. First of all, the first thing we need to do is to install the Placker PowerUp. In this case, I have already installed the two-way card mirror PowerUp, and then you will have the Placker import button here. Import your board is the first thing. So in order to be able to synchronize cards across two different boards, the first thing you need to do is to import them to Placker. Well, okay, so this is done. Okay, so I don't see it for some reason. I just see a purple icon. Can you try another browser or maybe another computer? This is the link to the webinar. Maybe it's something related to the browser. If you can use your mobile, it should work there. Well, so I have an example here. As I said, you can apply card mirroring in many different ways. So I have a board, a personal board, where I'm working on some example tasks here. I'm developing an app with my team. I am the designer, and I have to do the product review, the team presentation, the design plan. So these are all things uh, on my to-do list, and the team also has their tasks. And I would like my cards, my tasks to show up on the team board so that um, the board is also visible here. So I'm going to create a card. So I will call this my task. And the most basic way to mirror a card from one board to the other is to simply open the board in Trello. If you have the project, the Power Up installed and the button, it will be visible here. You can select uh, board theme, which is the theme board, the master board. This will create a mirror. And at the same time, the card is also visible in that board. And from that moment on, any change you do, like for example, if you change the dates, I will add the due date here. I don't have to change it in both places. It automatically synchronizes, right? So that's very useful. You can also add comments. And basically every attribute that you change, if you add attachments, if you add checklists, if you add comments, everything will be visible to your team unless there is an attribute that you wouldn't like to sync. Like for example, maybe the title for this task here is my task, but for the team, it should be called something else. It should be called like Gustavo's task, for example. And in this case, what you can do is to change the settings. So you can click mirror settings and unlink, for example, the title. So the title of the card will no longer be in sync while everything else is. So I'm going to change my task to Gustavo's task. And this will not be reflected in my personal board, only on the team board. If I do anything else, if I mark the card as completed, if I move the card to the done list, this is synchronized to the other board. Okay? A question that we get a lot is if you need to have the same titles in different boards. So in this case, I have the exact same titles to do, doing, and done. And if you do have the same titles, what will happen is that the cards will move to the list according to the board. So if card 2 is also mirrored, and I move it to another list, it will also move there. Unless, of course, you disable this in the mirror settings. Well, if you don't have the same title, it's also possible to move to the same list. So, for example, there is an option that is called progress tracking. So if you open mirror rules and at the sidebar you click progress tracking, you can assign a status to each list. So maybe this is something new for most people. Like for example, in this case, the middle list is not doing, it's in progress, but both in progress and doing, they're also in the list. So I can say that to do is open, doing is started, and done is completed. We are mapping the status for this board. And in this board, it's not doing, it's in progress, but still we can use the same statuses. So in progress tracking, you can click list, and to do is open, in progress is started, and done is completed. So even though the titles are different, they will be moved based on their status. So this is interesting if you use different names for lists. Okay. Well, another interesting feature is that you don't necessarily have to mirror cards manually to another board. You can create an automation rule to do this for you. So, for example, I have task 3, and I want this to automatically mirror to the team board. I can have, for example, a rule in my board. And that rule, if I click add new rule, every time, for example, a card is on the board, so every time you create a new card, or for example, if a card has a label, if you add the green label called team board, um, this will automatically mirror the cards to another board. So in this case, to the team board. And when conditions are no longer met, like for example, if this card is archived, or if this card has this label removed, if you remove the team label board from this card, then what happens is that the link, the mirror link, and it will archive the card in the mirrored board. Give it a title, save changes, and from now on, you don't need to necessarily click card mirror and select the list and the board. You can simply add the label, which is exactly the trigger that we have selected. And this will make the card be visible in the team board. So mirror rules are very interesting to help you save time by not having to manually mirror the cards. And you can create the rule based on what works best for your team. Okay? What do you think so far? Do you think this is useful for your team? Is there anything that you didn't know yet? Is there anything that is not clear? Let me know your feedback in the chat. While I'm going to show you some more advanced tools right now. But I would say that the basics are that you can mirror cards manually. You can change the attributes that you select to sync, and you can create automation rules. One more thing that is interesting to note is that you can mirror a card to multiple boards, so that's called the mirror group. So this card, task 3, is already mirrored to a second board, and I could mirror this to the third board, for example. I could create a third card mirror. So this could be, for example, in my personal board, in my team board, and in my client board, for example. That's possible to do with Placker. Yeah, so we have a question about explaining again the status feature. So the status feature is when you want a card to be mirrored to have the lists in sync, even if they have different titles. So in this example, if I move task 3 from to do to done, it will also move from to do to done in the team board. This is the simple list sync. This is not the progress tracking. The issue happens when you have different names for a list that reflects the same status, like for example, doing. In the team board, we called doing, and in the personal board, I call it in progress. And even so, I want the cards to be mirrored. I want task 3 to go to the middle column in the personal board, even if it has different titles, right? And to do this, to achieve this, I have clicked mirror rules. I have clicked here at the left sidebar progress tracking, and by hand means that Placker will not change the status based on the list. But if you change to list, then every time a card is in the in progress list, the status in Placker is started, and the same thing goes in this board. The status is started if the card is on the doing list, and this makes the cards be synchronized. Okay, and another effect of this, by the way, is that cards can be marked as completed automatically. So for example, I have project closure. I will assign this to be due today, for example. The card is still open, right? It's overdue. It's in the to-do list. That means that the card is not completed. And if you use the progress tracking, then you can move it to done, and it will automatically mark the card as completed. Okay, so you don't need to remember to do two things. If you don't use progress tracking, you need to move it to done, and you need to mark the card as completed. If you have progress automatic tracking, you simply move it there, and it's marked as completed automatically. So that's another good thing about using the progress tracking. Well, let's explore some other features. So if you also click the board mirror rules, for example, there is an option here that says mirror settings. And if you, well, there is this first option, which is, okay, Anthony, thanks. I will check your question. Archive/restore mirrored cards on card archive/restore. This means that if you archive a card, task 2, for example, this will automatically archive the card in the other board. If that's what you want, you can enable this feature. And another interesting one that I want to show you is here at the bottom, automatically detect and create parent/child mirrors by Trello card URL. Okay, so if I activate this, what happens is that I can create parent-child cards. Well, what is exactly a parent-child card? Well, many times we have tasks created as checklist items, right? So I don't know if that's the case for you, but many times we have a big task like a product review, for example. This is something that takes many days, and it's hard to manage this. So we're going to break it down into tasks. So I have like a subtask, for example. The issue with the subtasks is that you cannot like add comments to subtasks. You cannot uh, add attachments. You cannot assign start dates because it's a checklist item. But sometimes we want to do these things. So what we do is we create a card, right? So um, you have a card here, and the card is, of course, not linked to the checklist item. But what you can do with Placker is that if you enable that option, you can copy the URL. So I open subtask. I can even have it in a separate list, but I open it, I copy the URL, and I paste it into the checklists. And now I have a mirror between a card and a checklist item. This is called parent-child card relation. So this is the parent card product review. This is the big task, and we have the subtask. And if we mark the subtask as completed, for example, by moving it to done, actually this didn't have a date. So yeah, let's have a date now. This will automatically mark the checklist item as completed, okay? In other words, you can use card mirroring both for card-to-card mirroring and to card to checklist item mirroring, so you can work in two levels at the same time. You can even have like a master board where you manage things at a higher level, and you have checklist items for the tasks, and you have the project boards where you make it very granular, you micromanage things, so that's also possible. Okay, let me check the Q&A. All right, so the question is, we have a problem with mirrors duplicating cards. Is this a rule problem? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what kind of problem that is, but it may happen sometimes that you open the mirror rules, and instead of having the green active button, it has a red button saying invalid parameters, or it has a blue info button. So if you see this, there are many things that could cause it. Like for example, in this case, the conditions for my rule is that I have the label team board as the trigger, right? What happens if I go and delete this label? If I delete the team board label, then I no longer have the trigger for that rule. So that makes that rule break, right? So, and there is a red button in the mirror rules explaining that you have an issue. So if you have a problem with your mirror rules, please check if the conditions are still valid, and if it's even after checking everything, it's not possible to find out the cause, we have our support team ready to help you. So you can send us the screenshot. You can take a screenshot of the mirror rule. You can click the support button here. So to talk to our team, you can click mirror rules. You can click the support button. You can send us a message. And if you have any issues like the mirror rule is not working as intended, or I have two mirrored cards and the attributes from those cards are not in sync, anything like that, please provide us as much information as possible. Send us the card links, send us the screenshot, and our team will investigate it to help you find the cause. Okay? So I'm not sure. One card makes 3 to 4 cards when it mirrors. Yeah. So in this case, please send us the link to one of those cards. It can be, doesn't have to be in the webinar. You can open the chat button and send us there the link to one of those cards that created 3 or 4 mirrors. Let us know if this is not intended, and we will analyze the rule for you. Okay, we still have some time left, so I want to show you some more things. Maybe many of you don't know, but Placker also provides more features and a brand new interface for you to work with your boards. So in addition to using the power-up to mirror cards in Placker in Trello, you can also access placker.com. If you open placker.com, you will find your boards there. You can sign in with Trello. So for example, I have all the boards here. For example, the personal board. And notice that this is exactly the same cards and the same data that I have in Trello. There are some advantages of using the Placker interface. There are some things that you can do here that are not possible in the Trello interface. For example, loading many boards on the same screen. So if you are working with multiple boards, you can click the scope bar here at the top. You can select all the projects that you want to see, and they will all be visible as if it was one big board. You can even combine them. So all the cards that are on the done list on all of those boards, they are all all the 11 cards on all of these projects are here. And by the way, can be even an alternative to card mirroring. So instead of mirroring cards to a master board, you could load your boards, your Trello boards in the Placker interface, and combine them so you can see all data combined, and you can have an overview of everything that's going on your boards. Okay, you can do most of the things that you can do in Trello here. You can open the card, you can change the dates, you can add your comments. If you add a comment here, it will be in sync with Trello. So you can even have part of your team using Trello if they prefer, and you as a manager, you can use the Placker interface because it gives you more tools. Another interesting thing that you have here is that you can compare plan dates with actual dates. Trello only has the plan start and the plan end date. In Placker, you can have also the actual dates. You can see if you move the card to completed before or after the due date, if this card was completed ahead of schedule or delayed. So yeah, many other things that you can do here. You can open a Gantt view. By the way, this is all included in your Placker subscription, right? So you can use the Gantt view to visualize your timeline. You can change the tasks here. So if it's interesting for you to have this kind of view, then you can also use Placker for this. Of course, it's not the main topic today, the Gantt chart and the track view. We also have the track view where you can have real-time information and graphs of your boards. But we are planning to do more webinars. So if this is interesting for you, if you would like to know more about the Gantt chart, about the track view, about the Google Calendar integration that is also offered by Placker, let us know. And we are planning the next webinars. We can address those topics in one of the next webinars. Well, I think these are the most important topics that I would like to cover today. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like to know. So take your time to ask any questions or let me know if you have any comments. Like I said, if it's something very specific, you can also send us in the chat, or we also have the Help Center where we have articles explaining every Placker feature. Like, for example, if you want to know more about the rules, for example, you have an article here that explains the whole step-by-step on how to create a mirror rule, both in Placker or in Trello. Okay, so there's a question. Is there a way to not show all boards mirrored in the workspace views on the left? Do you mean in the Trello workspace views? Do you refer to the table view from Placker? I don't have it available here, but is the table view where you see cards from many different boards? Okay, the table views. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not possible to filter only the mirrored cards because the table view will show all the cards in that workspace, regardless of if it's mirrored or not. So for Trello, the mirrored cards like task 2, for example, Trello doesn't know that it's a mirror, so it will show twice in the table. What you could do is to find a workaround for this So for example, maybe if the trigger is that you only mirror cards that have the green label, maybe there is a way to filter out the green label cards here, and that would hide all the duplicates from the table. So to answer your question, there's not like a specific way to filter out the mirrored cards, but you could filter cards if they have a label, for example. Okay, another question. Is there a way to set up a number of rules on a template list? Mm. Is there a way to set up a number of rules on a template list so that they are automatically applied when a list is created from that template? Okay, well, not exactly from a list, but what you can do is to copy rules from one board to the other. Like for example, if I have one board loaded here, I'm not sure if this option is available if you open this in the Power Up. Let's see. Yeah, it's not available in the Power Up, but you can click Mirror Rules, open in Placker.com. This will enable more options for you. And if you have like a second board that you're going to create where the rules are very similar to this board and you want to save some time in replicating the mirrors, what you can do is to use the button Copy Settings. You can copy like the settings that you have in your board, and you can copy the rules. So I want to copy rules from, for example, the team board to the personal board with one click. Okay, so all the rules will be copied. This is possible to do, so I'm not sure if this addresses exactly what you would like to do, but you can copy rules from one board to the other. Okay, there is another question here. Does it sync with other tools like Microsoft Planner and Jira? Well, Placker also connects with Microsoft Planner. So today, the example I showed you was with Trello, but it also works for Microsoft Planner. You can import, you can open Placker.com, add a board, and instead of a Trello board, it can be a Microsoft Planner board. And there were cases where it's a big company and some departments of the company are using Microsoft Planner and another department is using Trello, and you can use Placker to mirror cards from Microsoft Planner to Trello. If that's useful for you, it's also something you can do with Placker. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, there is one more question. I have a board without the mirror power-up. When I click power-ups, I'm having a hard time finding which one to choose. Can you show how to set that up? Step 1, add the power-up. Oh yeah, sure. I think I went too fast with that step. Um, Let me disable the power-up. So if you have a new board, you don't have any power-ups enabled there, and you want to use Placker, the first thing to do is to click power-ups, add power-ups. You will see many different power-ups from Trello. If you type mirror, there will be many different mirror power-ups. If you type mirror Placker, you will find the Placker power-up, two-way card mirror, and sync by Placker. And this is the one that you want to have, specifically the mirror features, okay? By the way, if you like also the other features that Placker provides, like for example, the Gantt view, and you want to have a shortcut, a quick access to the Gantt view from your Trello board, instead of installing the two-way card mirror power-up, you could install the Projects by Placker power-up. So if you type Projects by Placker, this is a more holistic power-up where you have both the mirror rules buttons, the card mirror buttons, and the Gantt buttons. So if you're using both, you could install Projects by Placker instead, and then you have not only mirror rules, but also you have Gantt, and you can click Gantt and use that feature right away, right? If you're using only card mirroring, maybe you don't need those buttons, but if you do, that's nice to have. Awesome. Okay, another question. Can we export the Placker Gantt to Microsoft Project? Yes, you can do this. So if you click, you have the Gantt, you can click Actions, I mean, not Actions, you can click Export, and then you can select PDF, for example. This will generate a PDF of your Gantt chart. Microsoft Project, this will generate a Microsoft Project file, or Excel. Excel will generate a file where you have attributes as columns and cards and checklist items as rows. So yes, you can select Microsoft Project here. Can you also import Microsoft Project to Placker? Yes, you can also import Microsoft Project to Placker. You can click, in this case, yes, Actions, Import. I mean, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the steps are Actions, Import, and then you select, you drop a Microsoft Project file. In any case, we have an article. If you type import MS project, yeah, exactly. So you can either upload the Microsoft project file, or if you want to be a bit more specific, or if you have Microsoft project in other languages. I am Brazilian, so I try to do it from my Portuguese Microsoft project board, and I had some issues with that. Placker was not reading the lists correctly. So what you can do instead is to export your MS Project file to Excel, and from Excel import it to Placker. So if you have Microsoft Project in another language, it will be required to use Excel as an intermediate step. Okay, but you can find all the step-by-step in our help center. Just type import MS Project and you will find all the steps there. Okay, great. Well, I think we don't have any other questions. So great. I hope that I have clarified many things to you today. As I said, it will be a pleasure to help you. If you have any other questions, if you have any problems, please reach out to us so we can look into this. And I hope to see you in one of the next webinars. We have a lot of nice things to show you. Placker can do a lot to improve your workflow. So hope to see you in the next time. Have a good week, everyone. And thanks for joining. Bye.